The warning. High Admiral Zextal stood before the Confederation Council's massive holographic display, his crystalline appendages reflecting the soft blue light of 1,000 stars. The map showed the outer reaches of Confederation space, where an anomaly had appeared 3 solar cycles ago. What started as a minor concern had evolved into something that made his crystalline structure vibrate with unease. Distinguished council members, he began, his translator converting his harmonic frequencies into standard Confederation speech. What you're about to see defies our understanding of technological progression. With a gesture, he zoomed in on a particular sector. The display shifted to show grainy footage of what appeared to be primitive spacecraft, boxy, inelegant vessels that seemed to barely hold together. They moved through space with all the grace of a meteor, burning fuel in ways that made the council members' crystalline forms shudder in collective disgust. These vessels, Zextal continued, belong to a species that calls themselves humans. They appear to be pre-FTL, using chemical propulsion and primitive nuclear engines. By all measurable standards, they shouldn't be here, 300 light-years from their homeworld. A council member's voice chimed in, its harmonics suggesting skepticism. Perhaps they are lost colonists from a more advanced civilization. That was our initial assumption, Zextal replied. We dispatched a diplomatic vessel to make first contact, following standard procedures for primitive species encounters. He paused, his crystal structure dulling slightly, the equivalent of a grim expression. I'll show you what happened. The holographic display shifted again, showing a Confederation diplomatic vessel, a beautiful crystalline structure that seemed to flow through space like liquid light, approaching one of the primitive human ships. The council watched as the diplomatic vessel initiated standard contact procedures, broadcasting peace signals across all known frequencies. The human ship's response came not in signals, but in action. It split apart like a blooming flower, revealing weapon systems that had been perfectly concealed within its crude exterior. Before the diplomatic vessel could raise its shields, precision strikes had disabled its primary systems. Gasps of harmonic discord filled the council chamber. What you're seeing isn't a malfunction or a trick of light, Zextal continued. These humans had weapon systems that our sensors couldn't detect until they were activated. Systems that shouldn't exist in a civilization at their apparent technological level. Systems that somehow knew exactly where to strike a Confederation vessel's weak points. The footage continued, showing the human vessel transmitting a message before departing. Zextal translated it for the council. Your space ends here. Return with peaceful intentions, or not at all. But how? Another council member demanded. Their ships burn primitive fuels. Their hull designs are inefficient. Their communication systems use radio waves, for harmony's sake. Zextal's response was interrupted by a junior analyst bursting into the chamber, their crystalline form vibrating with urgency. High Admiral, we've detected more human vessels. They're everywhere. The holographic display expanded, revealing hundreds of signatures matching the human vessels, scattered throughout Confederation space. They had been there all along, hiding in plain sight, their primitive appearances masking capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. We've been analyzing their technology, Zextal said, his harmonics grave. What we thought was inefficient design is actually brilliant camouflage. What looked like crude nuclear engines are facades hiding something we can't even identify. They'd been watching us, studying us, positioning themselves throughout our territory, and we never noticed because we dismissed them as primitive. The council chamber erupted in discordant harmonics of alarm and disbelief. Zextal raised his appendages for silence. There's more, he said. We've intercepted transmissions between their vessels. They're not afraid of us. They're not impressed by our technology. And most disturbing of all, they've been expecting this confrontation. Everything we've seen, every seemingly primitive design, every apparent technological limitation, has been deliberate. The council's leader stepped forward, their crystalline form pulsing with authority. What are you suggesting, High Admiral? I'm suggesting, honored ones, that we haven't discovered a primitive species pushing beyond their boundaries. We've stumbled upon a highly advanced civilization that chooses to appear primitive, a species that has mastered the art of deception so thoroughly that they've hidden their true nature from the entire Confederation. He paused, letting his next words resonate through the chamber. I believe we face a species that has turned warfare into an art form so subtle, so sophisticated, that they can wage it without their opponents even realizing they're at war. These humans don't just practice warfare. They've elevated it to a form of strategic artistry that we can barely comprehend. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. On the holographic display, more human signatures appeared, their crude vessels a mockery of the Confederation's assumptions about technological progress and military power. They had thought themselves the masters of their space, the pinnacle of civilized development. But in their certainty, they had missed the wolves in sheep's clothing, the gods of war hiding behind masks of primitive simplicity. The question now wasn't whether to engage these humans in combat. It was whether the Confederation could afford to face an enemy that had already outmaneuvered them before the first shot was fired. High Admiral Zextel's crystalline form dimmed to almost black as he delivered his final assessment. We are not dealing with an emerging civilization, honored council. We are dealing with masters of warfare who have been playing a game we didn't even know existed. And they've just decided to let us know we're playing. The underestimation. Fleet Commander Nyrevel watched from the bridge of the Confederation's most powerful warship as 500 crystalline vessels moved into attack formation. The humans had been given one planetary cycle to withdraw from Confederation space. Their response had been simple. Come and get us. Status report, she commanded, her crystalline form glowing with battle readiness. All ships report optimal condition, Commander, her second-in-command responded. Human vessels maintain their scattered formation. They appear to be making no effort to concentrate their forces. Nyrevel studied the tactical display. The human ships remained in their seemingly random positions, their crude designs an insult to the elegant efficiency of Confederation engineering. Their formation, if it could even be called that, violated every principle of space combat doctrine. Begin the attack sequence, she ordered. Standard purification protocol. The Confederation fleet surged forward, their crystalline ships forming perfect geometric patterns that would allow for maximum field coverage and overlapping fire zones. It was beautiful, precise, and utterly predictable. Exactly what the humans had been counting on. The first sign that something was wrong came when 3 Confederation ships suddenly lost power. There had been no weapon fire, no energy signatures, nothing to indicate an attack. They simply went dark. Unknown contagion detected in the ship's crystal matrices. An analyst reported, their harmonics sharp with alarm. It's singing to the crystals, Commander, changing their resonance patterns. Before Nyrevel could respond, more ships began to fail. The humans hadn't moved, hadn't fired a single shot, but somehow they were attacking the very essence of Confederation technology, the living crystals that powered their civilization. Impossible, Nyrevel whispered. They couldn't have known. The crystal technology is our most closely guarded secret. A message flashed across her command screen. Did you think we spent all this time just watching? We've been listening. Your ships sing. We learned their songs. The human vessels finally moved, but not to attack. They began broadcasting, not energy weapons or torpedoes, but music. Complex harmonies that resonated with the crystal matrices of the Confederation ships, turning their own technology against them. Evasive maneuvers. Nyrevel ordered, but it was too late. The humans had turned space itself into a weapon. They had scattered their ships not out of ignorance or poor tactics, but to create a massive resonance field. The Confederation fleet had sailed right into a trap that used their own technological superiority as the trigger. Commander, her tactical officer called out, we're detecting new signatures, the humans. They're changing. The crude vessels were transforming. What had appeared to be clumsy hull plating shifted and flowed like liquid metal. The primitive nuclear engines revealed themselves as sophisticated propulsion systems that defied Confederation understanding. It wasn't just camouflage. The ships themselves were technological metamorphs, capable of completely altering their form and function. They're not just hiding their technology, Nairoval realized. They're hiding entire dimensions of warfare we never conceived of. The humans struck then, but not with conventional weapons. Each transformed ship became a center of controlled chaos, employing tactics that seemed to violate the laws of physics. They moved in ways that shouldn't have been possible, attacked from angles that shouldn't have existed, and coordinated with a level of precision that made the Confederation's geometric formations look primitive by comparison. Fall back, Nairoval ordered. Emergency temporal shift. But even their fastest escape method had been anticipated. The humans had seeded the entire region with temporal anchors, disguised as space debris. The Confederation fleet was trapped in normal space, their technology neutralized, their tactical doctrine useless. A new message appeared. You built your warfare on crystal and light, on mathematics and precision. We built ours on adaptation and deception. You perfect a single form of combat. We master them all. Nairoval watched in horror as her mighty fleet was systematically dismantled by an enemy that had studied them for years, learning their weaknesses, their patterns, their very essence. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had composed it like a symphony, using the Confederation's own strengths as notes in their song of war. Send the emergency signal, she commanded. All units withdraw. And append this message to High Command. We didn't just underestimate their technology. We underestimated their understanding of warfare itself. They don't fight battles. They orchestrate them. Every move we make has been anticipated. Every strategy we employ was expected. They turned our own civilization's fundamental nature into a weapon against us. As the remnants of her fleet retreated, Nairoval received one final message from the humans. This was just the overture. The real performance has yet to begin. The Confederation had launched this attack, believing they faced a primitive species playing at warfare. Instead, they had encountered an enemy that had turned combat into an art form, one that operated on levels they were only beginning to comprehend. They hadn't lost a battle. They had been schooled in an entirely new dimension of warfare. And somewhere out there, the humans were preparing for Act Two. The revelation. Grand Strategist Kaiserman stood before the emergency session of the Confederation War Council, her crystalline form pulsing with a dull, worried light. The chamber's walls displayed real-time battle data from across their space, each point of light representing another failed engagement with human forces. We've been asking the wrong questions, she began. We kept asking how humans achieved this level of technology. We should have been asking why they chose to hide it. The display shifted to show surveillance footage from a captured human vessel. The ship's interior defied explanation. Spaces that seemed to fold into themselves, technology that appeared to change its fundamental nature when observed, and systems that operated on principles that violated known physics. What you're seeing isn't just advanced technology, Kaiserman explained. It's technology designed to be incomprehensible. The humans didn't just develop these capabilities. They developed them specifically to counter known forms of analysis and understanding. A council member's harmonics buzzed with frustration. But why? Why expend such effort to appear primitive? Because, Kaiserman responded, they were preparing for a war they knew would come. Not just against us, but against any advanced civilization they might encounter. They turned their entire species into a weapon of war so subtle that no one would recognize it until it was too late. The display showed new footage. Human civilians on their homeworld, going about seemingly primitive lives while surrounded by technology that could have revolutionized their existence. They chose to live simply, to maintain the illusion of technological inferiority. Their entire civilization is a military exercise in deception, Kaiserman continued. Every human is trained from birth in the art of appearing harmless while maintaining constant combat readiness. They don't just practice warfare, they live it. The council chamber erupted in discordant harmonics of disbelief and horror. Chiron raised her appendages for silence. We've discovered something else. The humans have been leaving gifts throughout our territory, seemingly primitive artifacts that our scientists dismissed as curiosities. These artifacts have been subtly influencing our crystal technology for decades, preparing it for the type of attack we witnessed in the last battle. The display showed thousands of these artifacts, each one a masterpiece of subtle warfare. They appeared crude but contained technologies that operated on principles so advanced they seemed like magic. But here's what truly makes them gods of war, Chiron said, her form dimming with gravity. We've analyzed their battle patterns. They're not just fighting us. They're teaching us. Each engagement reveals a new aspect of warfare we never considered. They're deliberately expanding our understanding of combat while maintaining their superiority. She gestured, and the display showed battle footage where human ships seemed to move through impossible dimensions, appearing and disappearing at will. They've mastered what they call fourth-dimensional warfare. While we fight in 3 dimensions, they operate in 4, maybe more. They don't just move through space, they move through possibilities. Each of their ships exists in multiple states simultaneously, making our targeting systems useless. A new analysis appeared, showing the true extent of human preparation. They had spent centuries building hidden installations throughout space, developing technologies that worked in harmony with natural phenomena rather than trying to overcome them. Their greatest weapon isn't their technology or their tactics, Chiron revealed. It's their understanding of warfare itself. They see it as an art form that encompasses everything: technology, psychology, physics, even evolution. They've turned their entire species into an engine of combat innovation. The display shifted to show a message intercepted from a human command center. Every species develops weapons. We became the weapon. They're not just fighting a war, Chiron concluded. They're conducting a masterclass in warfare. Each battle is a lesson, each engagement a demonstration. They're showing us what we could have been if we had approached warfare as an art rather than a science. The council sat in stunned silence as the implications sank in. They had thought themselves masters of combat, with their precise formations and advanced technology. The humans had shown them they were merely technicians, practicing a craft they barely understood. We have 3 options, Chiron stated. We can continue to fight and be systematically dismantled. We can surrender and accept whatever terms they offer. Or, the council leader's harmonics trembled. Or we can acknowledge what they're trying to show us. They're not just defeating us. They're offering to teach us. Every battle has been a carefully crafted lesson in the true nature of warfare. They're inviting us to evolve. The chamber fell silent again as the council contemplated this revelation. On the display, another human fleet emerged from seemingly empty space, their ships dancing through dimensions the Confederation couldn't even perceive. They weren't just witnessing warfare. They were watching artists at work, masters of a craft that transformed the very concept of combat into something transcendent. The humans hadn't just mastered war, they had elevated it to an art form that bordered on the divine. And they were waiting to see if the Confederation would learn or perish. The counterstrike. The Confederation's Supreme War College had never seen anything like it. Thousands of crystalline minds linked together, attempting to comprehend the latest human offensive. But this wasn't an attack with ships or weapons. It was an attack on reality itself. First observer Telak watched as the holographic display showed human vessels seeming to ignore the fundamental laws of physics. They didn't just move through space. They rewrote it as they passed. They're not using technology anymore, he announced to the assembled War Council. They've transcended it. What we're seeing, it's beyond warfare as we understand it. The display showed human ships appearing simultaneously in multiple locations, not through any known form of faster-than-light travel, but through what appeared to be manipulation of probability itself. Each vessel existed in a quantum state of multiple tactical possibilities, all of them deadly. We thought they were hiding their technology, Telak continued. The truth is far worse. They were hiding their understanding of reality itself. A junior analyst burst into the chamber, their crystalline form flickering with urgency. "First observer, we've decoded more of their historical records. You need to see this immediately." The display shifted to show human military archives. Not of battles or weapons, but of games. Chess, Go, poker, children's games that, viewed through the lens of their current understanding, revealed themselves as millennia of warfare training. "Every human game is a warfare simulator," Telak explained, his voice resonating with dawning comprehension. "Every sport, every pastime. They're all teaching military principles. Their entire culture is built around understanding conflict from every possible angle." The display showed new footage. Human children playing hide and seek, learning the principles of stealth and deception. Sports teams coordinating complex strategies. Board games teaching resource management and tactical thinking. "They don't separate warfare from life," Telak continued. "To them, everything is a form of combat. Not out of aggression, but out of a deep understanding that conflict is fundamental to existence itself." Suddenly, the college's sensors detected a massive energy surge. Throughout Confederation space, seemingly dormant human vessels began to move. But they weren't attacking military targets. Instead, they were creating something. "By the first light," Telak whispered, "they're rebuilding space itself." The humans had launched their true counterstrike. Every ship, every hidden installation, every piece of apparently primitive technology scattered throughout Confederation territory began working in concert. They weren't destroying, they were transforming. Regions of space began to fold and unfold in new configurations. Strategic positions the Confederation had held for millennia suddenly found themselves in tactically useless locations. Critical supply lines were rerouted through dimensions that hadn't existed moments before. This was their plan all along, Telek realized. The battles, the demonstrations of their power, they were just preparing us for this moment. They're not trying to defeat us. They're restructuring the battlefield itself. A message appeared across every Confederation display. War isn't about destroying your enemy. It's about reshaping reality until conflict becomes unnecessary. The human vessels continued their work, their movements describing patterns that seemed to alter the very fabric of space-time. They weren't fighting in the universe. They were teaching it new rules. They've mastered what they call strategic topology, Telak explained to the stunned council. They don't just fight wars, they redesign the space in which wars are fought. Every battle we've had with them was just a preparatory phase for this fundamental restructuring of reality. The display showed the full scope of the human operation. They had spent centuries seeding Confederation space with devices that appeared primitive, but were actually nodes in a vast network designed to reshape space itself. This is why they appeared primitive, Telak continued. They needed us to underestimate them until their network was complete. Now they can rewrite the strategic landscape at will. They're not just gods of war. They're architects of reality itself. A new message flashed across the displays. Your move, Confederation. But choose carefully. The game has changed, and the board you're playing on isn't what you think it is. The War Council sat in stunned silence as they watched human ships continue their work, each movement altering the fundamental nature of space around them. They weren't just watching a military operation. They were witnessing the evolution of warfare itself into something that transcended traditional concepts of victory and defeat. The humans had shown that true mastery of warfare wasn't about winning battles. It was about transforming the very nature of conflict itself. They hadn't just outfought the Confederation. They had revolutionized the entire concept of strategic warfare. And somewhere out there, they were waiting to see if their opponents would finally understand the true lesson they had been teaching all along. The gods of war. The Confederation Council chamber had been transformed. Where once crystalline beings sat in ordered rows, now representatives of both species gathered in a space that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The humans had insisted on this setting for the final negotiations. Supreme Counselor Virith found herself struggling to maintain her crystalline form stable as she gazed at the human delegation. They appeared deceptively simple, organic beings in plain clothing. But now she could see what her species had missed for so long. The way they moved through possibility itself, their very existence, a demonstration of mastery over reality. The human representative, Admiral Sarah Chen, stood calmly at the center of the chamber. Her presence seemed to bend space around her, not through any technology, but through sheer force of understanding. "You still haven't asked the most important question," Chen said, her voice carrying layers of meaning that resonated through multiple dimensions. "Why did we reveal ourselves now?" Virith's harmonics trembled as she responded. "We assumed it was because we discovered your presence in our space." Chen smiled. "You discovered us because we allowed it, just as we allowed you to detect our primitive-seeming ships, to underestimate our capabilities, to launch your attacks. Every move in this conflict was choreographed centuries ago." The chamber's displays showed a new image, the galaxy, but viewed from an impossible angle that revealed patterns no one had ever seen before. Lines of force, flows of probability, streams of causality, all interwoven in a vast tapestry of strategic potential. "Humanity didn't just master warfare," Chen continued. "We transcended it. We realized that true victory doesn't come from defeating your enemy. It comes from transforming the very nature of conflict itself." She gestured, and the display shifted to show Earth's history, but not the sanitized version they had allowed others to see. This was the true history, millennia of warfare that had forged humanity into something new. Every war we fought taught us something. Tribal conflicts taught us adaptability. Classical warfare taught us strategy. Modern warfare taught us technology. But our greatest wars taught us something far more important. They taught us to question the very nature of conflict itself. The display showed humanity's evolution, not just physical but philosophical. Each major war had pushed them not just to develop new weapons, but to fundamentally reimagine what warfare could be. "We didn't become gods of war because we were stronger or more advanced," Chen explained. "We became gods of war because we learned to see warfare as an art form, a tool for transformation rather than destruction." Virith watched in amazement as the display showed the true extent of human preparation. They hadn't just been hiding their capabilities. They had been carefully orchestrating a galaxy-wide transformation. The primitive ships, the hidden technology, the strategic deception. These weren't just tactics, Chen continued. They were brushstrokes in a canvas that encompasses the entire galaxy. "We've spent centuries preparing for a war that would end all wars, not through victory, but through transcendence." The human admiral raised her hand, and the chamber itself seemed to shift, revealing layers of reality the Confederation had never imagined existed. "Your civilization sees warfare as a means to an end. We see it as a form of evolution. Each conflict is an opportunity to transcend our current limitations, to rewrite the rules of reality itself." The display showed the final piece of the puzzle, the human master plan. They hadn't been preparing for war. They had been preparing to transform the very concept of conflict throughout the galaxy. "We revealed ourselves now because the galaxy is ready to understand that true warfare isn't about destruction. It's about transformation. Every battle we fought with you was a lesson. Every demonstration of our power was an invitation to evolve." Chen stepped forward, her presence seeming to exist in all possible moments simultaneously. "We are not gods of war because we excel at fighting. We are gods of war because we learn to use conflict itself as a tool for universal advancement." The chamber fell silent as the full implications became clear. The humans hadn't just mastered warfare, they had transcended it entirely, reaching a level where conflict itself became a means of cosmic evolution. "So now," Chen concluded, "we offer you a choice, not between war and peace, but between stagnation and transformation. Join us not as subjects or allies, but as students of the art of transcendent warfare. learned to see conflict not as a path to victory, but as a road to evolution itself. Virith looked at her fellow council members, seeing in their crystalline forms the first glimmers of understanding. The humans hadn't come to conquer or destroy. They had come to teach, to transform, to elevate. The gods of war had revealed themselves not to rule, but to guide the galaxy toward a new understanding of conflict itself. And in doing so, they had shown that the true mastery of warfare lay not in winning battles, but in transcending the very need for them. The age of conventional warfare was over. The era of transcendent conflict had begun.